Is Baldur's Gate 3 just too good? Let's find out.
What's up, everybody? This is the Dark Urges man here, and today I want to take you down by the river. Larian Studios has lit the internet on fire with their latest dating simulator, one that gives Super Seducer a run for its money. By all accounts, Baldur's Gate 3 is a slam dunk success.
Yep.
And it's now the highest rated PC game on Metacritic ever.
Nice.
There's a lot of games on PC. It has taken one of the top 10 spots for most concurrent players on Steam. On August 6th, apparently the game accounted for 28% of total player time on Steam. Pardon my French, but that's fucking crazy. As far as I've played, Baldur's Gate 3 has been an incredible game, and it is very refreshing.
Squirrel might be the single most adorable creature
Hit
you
it.
can recall in all your stunted memory.
Oh.
It would be ever so twee if it were climbing a tree.
Twee?
Why?
Do you always take on such terrifying foes?
No studio
Why?
is more deserving of this kind of praise than Larian, who has toiled in the mines for far too long. But we're not reviewing the game today. Instead, I want to focus on...
Wait, if we're not reviewing the game today, what are we doing?
this small pocket of contrarians still holding out at Helm's Deep. I want to talk about this IGN video. Baldur's Gate 3 is causing some developers to panic.
The classic. Arguably one of the videos that started it all. Without the outrage the developers created about Baldur's Gate 3 being absolutely amazing, honestly, it probably wouldn't have seen such success. But the fact that every developer is panicking and saying how you should not expect good things in the future because Baldur's Gate 3 was good, I think that just pushed it way over the top.
And the video is... it's pretty good? Wait, is this IGN? Are you sure? It's filled...
Yeah, this is like the first IGN video in probably 2 decades that actually makes even a single bit of sense. And instead of single bit, it actually makes a lot of sense.
with great takes and actual insight and commentary into the game industry, and not just giving away 9 out of 10 scores to every new release.
Developers should be looking
Yep.
at what Baldur's Gate 3 did and trying to replicate where they can, not jumping up to defend games that are cramming in practices that fans are getting fed up with.
He's right!
But there's this sentiment going around that Baldur's Gate 3 it's just an unreasonable standard for AAA studios to meet. So we're gonna talk about that, because ladies and gentlemen, the companions in Baldur's Gate 3 are an irresistible thirst trap. Luckily for me, I can resist their temptations and quench my thirst with Air Up, the sponsor of today's video. Have you ever wanted to drink plain water? Armor in Oblivion? Parts of the video game industry have gotten
It lagged.
progressively greedier as time goes on. It's something that a lot of gamers are getting increasingly tired of. So naturally, as Baldur's Gate 3 was about to come out, we all wondered what the catch would be. Are there gonna be any dumb microtransactions? No. There are no in-game purchases in our game. We believe in providing a complete and immersive gaming experience without the need for additional purchases. Enjoy the game to its
The word complete just hits different, eh?
fullest without any additional costs or microtransactions.
I don't believe it!
This can't be right. Is this the prince who was promised? Well, the game's got to be fucking terrible then. What? We've gotten to a point where it feels like in the AAA gaming space, like outside of Nintendo, the idea of video games being complete at release and just a one-time purchase.
Oh, Fallout 76, the absolute go-to, golden example of bad games.
That idea is almost extinct. Even games that are just supposed to be single player can be completely broken at release. Well, with ethics like this, Larian, it's no wonder some game devs don't want it to become the new standard. Nah, just keep pounding those microtransactions in. Just keep shoveling that crap in there. You know what my first reaction is when a new game...
Hey, it's not exactly the microtransactions' fault. The fact that the developers are incompetent and they made a bad product. You know, developing microtransactions doesn't exactly take a long time, you know? But, you know, let's just find excuses for bad, unqualified developers.
Game comes out, Where are the slot machines? How can I gamble more money? I think the industry deserves a game like Baldur's Gate 3, and we deserve a developer like Larian. The biggest problem with microtransactions and in-game purchases is that it always affects the core gameplay. Usually in a negative way. Sometimes companies end up implementing anti-player design to then charge the players to make the game better, less tedious, or more
Extra character save slot costs $10. Nice.
customizable. Think about how Halo Infinite took away your ability to choose your own colors in order to sell that back to you. Like try to imagine
Playing Halo in the current year should be a sin, but that's okay.
Baldur's Gate 3 as a live service game with a battle pass. Jesus Christ. Okay, well now Larian has to figure out ways to provide continuous content, so they likely come up with easily copy and pasted content and quests for new seasons. You know, how do players unlock tiers in the battle pass? How do you incentivize them to spend more money? What do you put in the battle pass to make it worth completing? On and on the questions go. You see, without a live service or a battle pass, Larian doesn't have to mold and shape the game to...
I like this absolute fallacy that he is implying here, that creating a battle pass is hard and arduous. No, it's not. You just put a couple of completely busted overpowered things that everyone wants in the battle pass and call it a day at certain points. And that's pretty much literally it. Someone's gonna buy it. That's that simple. No one actually spends time designing a battle pass. Because the truth is, if someone spent time designing a battle pass, we would know about it, and that would be probably hailed as a actual interesting thing. But it's not, obviously. Because no one takes time, no one wastes time designing the battle pass. No one is removing content from the game to put into the battle pass. Because that's stupid.
to fit that puzzle. All they had to do was focus on making the best video game possible, and I think they've done a bang-up job. And then the other thing with in-game purchases is you now have to take content out of the game that could have been unlocked by simply playing it, and you now have to resell it, right? Another thing that really makes Larian's games stand out as RPGs is that they don't really make filler or fluff. Quests aren't handled like a checklist of chores and activities to just keep you busy for no other reason. But let's go into this topic of Baldur's Gate 3 being so unbelievably good that nobody else can make a game this good ever. Please, please, please put some thought into it before you proclaim this is what AAA gaming should be moving forward. 6 years and 400 plus people with insane funding due to the
versus Blizzard's 7 years and 8,000 people and probably at least an extra or 2 zeros of funding to make Diablo 4. Yeah.
IP having given BG3 a big boost. It's truly unrealistic to expect this on a regular basis. And then some guy from Larian came out of the woodwork and was like, what funding?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, Larian didn't receive funding from Wizards of the Coast to use the Dungeons and Dragons IP. Quite the opposite. They paid a licensing fee to use it. There are like
the idea that Wizards of the Coast would willingly give someone something good is fundamentally incompatible with reality standards. If that ever happens, you know you have slipped into a different timeline. Potentially a dangerous timeline.
Standards and practices they have to follow with this IP. So it's even more encumbering than just making a new game based on an IP they already own, which makes it even more impressive. Then he goes on to double down after being called out. Clearly funding wasn't the right choice of words here.
Oh,
replace
really?
that with budget, knowing that an IP with the legacy of this one is going to sell.
What?
What does that even mean?
Me. Are you talking about the Dungeons and Dragons IP? Because most people associate that with the tabletop board games. Are you talking about the Baldur's Gate IP? Because the last game I heard about Baldur's Gate was Dark Alliance 2 in 2000.
Using the Dungeons and Dragons license does not mean that your game is gonna sell. There's tons of games who have done that and not sell well.
I reckon most people prior to this hadn't heard of Larian Studios and had never heard of Baldur's Gate before. What's also funny about this tweet and the situation in general is that
100% true, in fact.
Proclaiming this isn't what AAA gaming should be. Yet another game recently came out that also had 6 years of development, a team 22 times bigger than Larian with
yes, of course, because we all know.
funding from a company that made $7.5 billion last year. And yet nobody is saying that game is creating an unrealistic standard. Why is that?
Well, it's actually lowering the bar if you think about it.
Why is that? If you have the tools, the people, the means, and the funding, then you should strive for greatness. I don't understand why people...
Having the tools, having the people, having the funding doesn't mean you're gonna succeed. Again, look at the Diablo 4 campfire. All of those developers deserve to be homeless. They don't play their game, they don't know what they're doing, they're literally clueless. And they are in high positions in the company to make decisions about the game. How can a level designer not play the game? How can a level designer make something that's good at a basic level, and because it is a level, and not play the game a single time? That's Blizzard for you.
Well, think otherwise. You know, what are they actually thinking? Don't let this become the new standard because we can't make games that good. I think it's pretty clear what the difference in priorities is between like Larian and Blizzard. Blizzard is like trying to make money, and Larian knows they're gonna make money if they just make a good video game. When you're at that level, you don't have to try to make money.
Well, actually, Larian did take a huge risk. Because if Baldur's Gate 3 wasn't successful, that would be actually the end for them. But they took the risk and they tried.
Just make a good product. Like a lot of people, I'm deeply excited about what the lovely folks at Larian accomplished, but I want to preemptively push back against players taking that excitement and using it to apply criticism or a raised standard to RPGs going forward. Wouldn't it be great if Bethesda held this standard to Fallout 76?
No.
Wouldn't that have been great? What are you trying to say? Stop complaining about AAA game developers that get away with releasing half...
Dude, Bethesda doesn't care. Was it 2 days ago, I made a video about Fallout 76, right? And, well, the Bethesda fanboys just literally said, "Oh, you haven't just played the game. I literally played it 4 months ago. Oh, you haven't played the game. You just played it wrongly, bruh." Shut the fuck up. I played like 10, 20 hours of that shit. It was ass. And you're trying to be here and tell me, "Oh, you played the game wrong." No, I did. My experience was bad in all ways possible. Like, damn, boy.
Half-baked shitty games? Just accept bad trends and shitty practices amongst the industry? Why wouldn't the best rated PC game of all time not raise the standards? This is not a new baseline for RPGs. This is an anomaly. Trying to do the same thing the same way, especially without the same advantages, could kill an entire group of studios.
Good.
What advantages? The advantage of talent?
Well, they actually do have some kind of engine or something like that, but the reality is it's literally talent most of the time.
Work, foresight, uncorrupted morals. These are things Larian has and all these other studios can easily attain. Baldur's Gate 3 is not an anomaly. It didn't just spring out of the ground. This isn't Larian's first game. They've been making top-down RPGs for over 20 years. Baldur's Gate 3 is simply the culmination of all that work, of all they have learned, on an engine they've been working on for many, many years. Baldur's Gate 3 is the culmination of a series or genre in the same way that Elden Ring and Smash Bros. Ultimate were. These aren't anomalies. These are really good games made by competent studios with a clear vision that have worked tirelessly to perfect their craft. They are efficient and smart with their work, constantly building upon what they did last. Larian is super familiar with the engine used to make this game. The controls are the same as Original Sin 2. So much of the base work was already done years prior. But unlike Divinity Original Sin 2, one of the craziest advances is that apparently all of the scenes have been
Imagine how pissed any Blizzard employee gets by the way hearing that, because this is the exact opposite tactic they apply to World of Warcraft. They do something good. Next expansion, you know what they're gonna do? Not do that thing. They do something bad, guess what? Next expansion, they're gonna try and improve on that bad thing and make it worse. You see, this is why these giant development companies are just bad, because they make all the wrong decisions. They don't improve on the past, and if they do, it's usually the worst choice ever that everyone is just left scratching their head. How do you even come to this conclusion that this is smart?
capped. Whereas in Original Sin 2, you just had to imagine what characters were doing. Again, it's a pretty funny comparison because that's the same type of storytelling Diablo 4 is doing. And then you look
True.
at Baldur's Gate 3 and it's just like, wow. But if you think about it, conceptually speaking, the older Smash Bros. Characters' movesets are pretty solid. And most of them didn't need any massive overhauls when it came time to make Ultimate. But you get what I'm saying? These studios work smarter. They don't settle for re-releasing the same game every year or tearing
Ooh, Assassin's Creed, perfect example.
down the foundation and rebuilding it every...
Wait, by the way, how many Assassin's Creeds are there? That's insane. Where is it? I want to see how many Assassin's Creeds there are. Wow. That's sad.
year or tearing down the foundation and rebuilding it every 3 years. So that's why these games seem so impressive, because to a lot of people, they haven't played Larian games. They haven't experienced these mechanics before. So it feels like it comes out of nowhere. I can't disagree with this one more. Whenever a game disrupts the industry and delights players beyond expectations, it absolutely raises industry and genre standards regardless of the why and how. Well said. We should celebrate landmark titles like this.
Yep.
Greed often breeds...
Well, everyone's doing it. Well, except the AAA. Well, Slip. You know what I mean.
And once the profits start rolling in, you really see people's true nature. Do they want to do as little work as possible for the maximum amount of money? Do they still have the same passion? Does a guy with 1 million subs still have the same passion for his craft as a guy with 1,000? You know
No.
what I mean? Larian serves as a very good example to other developers, I would say. This is a great thread about why using a singular game to set expectations for everyone developing titles in a genre isn't useful and is instead foolhardy. This is one of those statements that, like...
Why are people constantly mentioning the genre? The genre doesn't matter. The genres literally don't mean anything anymore. It's either you're playing a top-down game, a shooter game, or arena-based something fighter game. I have heard people compare Diablo 4 to Lost Ark, which is insanely stupid. And I have heard people compare Path of Exile to Lost Ark, which is also insanely stupid. Like, there's no overlap between these games except that they're top-down. Genres don't mean shit anymore.
5 years from now is going to be looked back on as really fucking stupid. It's going to be looked back on as those people when cars were first coming out. They were like, cars aren't going to replace horses. That's foolhardy. People that cling to the...
Imagine cars coming out nowadays. Yeah, they would literally be classified as a weapon and no one would be able to use them. It would be hilarious. It's like the same if basketball got reinvented now in the modern day without existing prior. Everyone would probably be wearing a helmet.
The old ways when something objectively better comes along, right? You could probably say the same thing about Mario 64 when that came out and revolutionized 3D games and platformers. I'm sure there was a bunch of people back then saying, well, Mario 64 is an anomaly. You can't expect other studios to be able to accomplish this. You can't apply this standard
I don't know. Maybe people previously weren't that delusional.
to other platformers. It's not fair.
That's not fair at all.
Here's the thing, right? Wouldn't a company or a person genuinely passionate about their craft want to compete with Baldur's Gate? Competition breeds improvement. It creates better products, and we all win in the end. Complacency...
Well, no, that's not true. You see, competition is hard. Being a big fish in a small pond, though, that's easy. So everyone obviously takes the easy route, the route of least resistance, if you will. So obviously, Baldur's Gate coming out here out of nowhere and literally being amazing is gonna leave a sour taste in everyone's mouth, because this means that they have to try.
It seems to be what some of these devs are advocating for, or at the very least admitting they work for a studio that doesn't prioritize making good products as much as they should. I get what they're trying to say though, right? Don't expect every quarterback to be as good as Tom Brady, but every
That was extremely American, -5 points.
quarterback should try to be as good as Tom Brady. I don't know a single game dev who has
America maybe should try and play real sport sometime.
conveyed this sentiment about BG3. Instead, I've heard devs ask folks not to use the great things achieved by this team as a weapon to use against other devs. Now, this is the actual argument I think some of them are trying to present, right? Remember how obnoxious the PlayStation fanboys would get when they compared every video game ever made to The Last of Us 2? Yeah, nobody should be doing that with Baldur's Gate 3.
Hilarious,
The one or two
though.
devs they were quoting were talking about how you shouldn't be expecting every RPG studio to be making games on the scale of BG3, because not every studio has the time, effort, or manpower. Yes, but some studios do have the time and manpower.
Some have even more than that. That's like the thing.
They just don't put in the effort. Nobody is saying Johnny game developer and his 2 college dorm roommates should make a 100-hour masterpiece RPG as their first game. Nobody's saying that.
True.
I don't think people are saying that.
They're probably gonna get drunk and fall off a roof and die. So, you know, they never will have the chance for the next masterpiece.
BG3 is the new standard, but rather it should raise everybody else's standards, because a lot of other...
Nah, I'm completely fine with Baldur's Gate being the literal new standard for gaming. I would like that. I would like everything to be high quality.
Developers really fucking down in the ground, man. CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk, Fallout 76, Bethesda. This is why Starfield has such high expectations behind it, and why it would be such a disappointment if that game turns out to be a glitchy, bug-ridden disaster. So many of these other companies have the exact same tools and...
Don't say that to Starfield fanboys, though. Again, Bethesda fanboys are on a different level. They will defend Bethesda no matter what. Bethesda could be there holding the cord to the guillotine, and they would still be yelling at the top of their lungs, Bethesda is great. They're insane.
Resources at their disposal at Larian, they just make terrible products. So yeah, this is what AAA studios should strive to achieve. And it's fine if they don't. But if they try...
No, it's not fine if they don't. They should. They have no excuses to not do it. Stop giving them excuses already. Like, how does this always happen in every single Actman video? It's either a strong start and a weak ending, or a strong end, or a weak start and a strong ending. Like, what is this? Now you're giving them excuses. Oh, you shouldn't actually be kidding. No, just keep doing. At the last 2 seconds, he's probably gonna say, "Oh no, actually, you should keep doing everything like you are. Make bad quality games. Who cares?"
Then they'll probably make a good RPG. Cyberpunk is a prime example of why everyone's standards should be higher. It's a wake-up call for a lot of these other developers, I hope. Larian has had such an underdog story that, like, it's so cathartic to see them succeed, because 10 years ago, they were raising funds for Divinity Original Sin through a Kickstarter program.
Oh wow, they raised a lot.
This is a studio that risked bankruptcy in the name of quality. So, at the end of the day, I think a lot of gamers have also woken up when they see what we've been missing for a long time, or at least what has become so rare in the industry, a game released by a studio that has no intentions of selling you something beyond that initial purchase. A game that works and is complete at launch. Baldur's Gate 3 is just an amazing game, and we should all be celebrating it. It is the prince who was promised, and hopefully it sends shockwaves across the industry. Should we compare every new RPG that comes out to Baldur's Gate 3?
Yes. Without exception, yes.
3? Probably not. Well, let's hope every new RPG in the AAA space tries to be as good, and that those companies try to be as pro-consumer as Larian. But thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a...
What the hell is this? Order your ire up bottle. Shop link? Whoa. Huh, that's new. Anyway, that's pretty much it. This was Quizzer Says, and thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.